ESPN Tallahassee's Jeff Cameron and Tom Lang bring you the latest from the FSU basketball program as the Noles look to go mad again this March.
Here's Barnes. Oh, is that pretty? And the slam. A spectacular play for the freshman.
Tallahassee Game Day Court Report is brought to you by Lisa's Paint and Body. Choose someone who is working with and looking out for you. Lisa's Paint and Body, 2820 Mahan Drive, just 0.2 of a mile west of Capitol Circle Northeast. Now, from Florida's capital city, here's ESPN Tallahassee's Jeff Cameron and Tom Lang.
All right, another edition of the Court Report. It's a good one. It sees your Noles 3-0. Number 15 in the land. They have victories over North Florida, Indiana, and Florida to go 3-0. First contest in the ACC, so conference play gets started. Georgia Tech got off to a bumpy start to the season. They lost their first two games, and one of them in 4 overtimes, and they followed that up with a loss to Mercer. That'll hurt your feelings. But they bounced back. There was a little 9-day respite between those first two games, and they figured something out and became a different team, and they've won 2 straight, and they look good doing it. So Georgia Tech comes in here feeling good about themselves. That tip tonight, 8:30 at the TLC Double C, televised on the ACC network. One of these days, we'll get the ACC network here in town, but until that time, you have to find alternative means.
Enjoy your buffering, folks.
Yeah, it's hurtful. By the way, Florida State leads the all-time series, 43 wins to 29 losses. The series dates back to 1963, including 10 straight wins for Florida State at one point between 2008 and 2015. We remember that. It's fresh in our mind. And 4 straight wins since 2018. Noles have had their way with Georgia Tech. And because of ACC expansion, obviously that created unbalanced scheduling. And we have not played Georgia Tech but one time per season between 2011 and 2018. So, as well as last year, despite the 20-game league schedule, just played them one time last year as well. You know, I don't know why, Tom, but you and I have watched a lot of Florida State Georgia Tech games that came down to the wire together. I can think of 4 off the top of my head where we were watching. One of them was a beatdown. And we were, I believe, over at Corner Pocket, or actually downstairs.
We're downstairs at 7th Hill Tap Room. That game was hyped up, and it was over within 8 minutes. You could tell the Noles weren't going to score 50 that night, it felt like.
They had no desire to be there. Everything was a dunk.
Yep.
Everything was a dunk for Georgia Tech. But, yeah, it's always been a weird sort of series. And, you know, if you look at it, they're the closest rival in distance, but we just don't play them all that much like you would think. And since we joined the ACC, Florida State is 29-19 against the Yellow Jackets. And in those 48 ACC games, 21 have been decided by 4 points or less. So, yeah, it feels that way, and it is that way.
Yeah, there was the heartbreak, too, where the team kind of quit back in 15. That must have been the end of the streak, I guess. But that was senior Devin Booker.
Oh,
and,
heartbreaking, yeah.
He was the only one who was trying out there, and we were like, guys, you're not, I mean, because we had a chance to backdoor our way into the tournament that particular season, and they just laid a complete egg on home court against Georgia Tech. That's about the last bad loss in this program's history in this building.
It was heartbreaking for the reasons that we all knew, because one man in his final game was giving everything he had. He desperately wanted to make the tournament, and we were watching nobody rise to the level of his intensity, and we were just heartbroken for him. You're right. I forgot about that. There are some memorable games in this series, and one of them, our friend Dave points out here in an email to me that the Yellow Jackets go way back. Jason Collier dropped 30 on us in a game in 1999. I do remember this. 111 to 108 was a double overtime affair, and he scored 30 points, and they won the game. And he subsequently took a beating at the Palace. He went over to the Palace and got a beating.
Really?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, so that's, yeah.
I've seen a beating at the Palace
now.
Some
people have seen beatings at the Palace, Tom.
I saw one at noon on a Saturday.
It can happen.
Noon.
It can happen at the Palace.
A guy kept going. He was a Gator fan, and he kept going, and everybody kind of gave him, and I don't mean I was a part of everybody.
A little wide berth, and then you're like, okay, sir.
All right, man. And he did it again, and the dude next to him, next thing you know, the bar stool was underneath the guy. It's thrown to the back wall. He goes into the bar, and he is taking a beat. And
you want to tell somebody in that moment, you're at the Palace.
Yeah, man.
You're at the Palace. You don't. This is not some other. This is the Palace. You might get a beating here. I mean, this isn't like we won't hit you here.
Right.
Some places you kind of know nothing's going to
You
happen.
throw
here.
darts, you play pool, you drink draft beer, and then some of the
It gets excessive.
some of the Red Bull bombs, and that's about it. That's what you do. Otherwise, just mind your own business.
Sleepy Nooner last year against Georgia Tech at the TLC on New Year's Eve, and within the first few minutes of the opening half, the refs had decided to swallow their whistles, which is a good thing on just about everything, and not constant stoppage or anything like that. It also meant that baskets were hard to come by. It was kind of a weird game, and Florida State won that game, and it's what we do, but it was an ugly, ugly basketball game. I do like noting that anytime we preface a matchup between Florida State and an ACC school and say they played last year at the TLC, you really can stop there. I don't need to continue to talk and tell you that we won that game, but a reminder, we won all of them. Any game that I tell you that we played last year at the TLC is immediately going to be followed by me saying a Florida State victory. No matter what it looked like, high-flying, free throw festival, low-scoring, whatever it might be, we won it.
It'd be interesting to see. It's a test of maturity to one degree, but then also just emotion to another degree today. Florida State tipping off. It's a later game, but you look on the horizon, you got UCF and Gardner-Webb, and that's a quick turnaround. It's Saturday. I think it's 8:30 that they tip off against UCF that was announced. And then the Gardner-Webb tip-off got moved up to 7 o'clock on Monday. So you got two games in short order. You got the holidays. You're coming off an emotional game against Florida, and not for the typical reasons of you beat your rival. It's for all the wrong reasons, really. I'll be interested to see what kind of group takes the court tonight, how energetic they are, because typically these Georgia Tech games are ugly.
They're scrappy. Yeah, that game that I was just alluding to, I think it was 70-58. It was a workmanlike victory. Florida State got it. They didn't play well in that game.
Like, you want them to just put Georgia Tech out of their misery, and they never do.
Well, and when you look at the starters in this game for Georgia Tech, and you talked about this yesterday, Tom, but, I don't suspect this will be a runaway for Florida State. Senior, junior. That's Georgia Tech. They are an experienced lot taking the floor tonight. In fact, you really can't, save for one guy, one more year of eligibility, get any more experience than Georgia Tech. That is rather remarkable. But, yeah, you think of the Parham kid, Usher, Wright, Alvarado, DeVoe, all of those guys upperclassmen, four of those guys seniors. They've played a lot of basketball together.
They have. Well, and it's – yeah, again, if you look at their schedule, and you ran down the games and what they played so far, but a weird one that skews the numbers. They go 4 overtimes against Georgia State and lose. Mm-hmm. Mercer does absolutely everything necessary to score an upset. They don't turn the ball over. The assist-to-turnover ratio is 22-10. They hit 18 of 19 of their free throws, did Mercer. They hit 50% of their threes. I mean, that is the formula for how you score an upset. So you're thinking, if you're Kentucky rolling down to Atlanta, you're going to handle Georgia Tech, no big deal.
79-62 beat down later.
Exactly. You get your doors blown off. Now, a lot of people are doing that to Kentucky, but still, to go on the road to Nebraska in a pandemic year is probably not an easy thing to do, but it shows the maturity that you're speaking of with Georgia Tech. That's going to be a mature group that's facing a team that's probably a little bit more uneven in Florida State. We're trying to find our footing. They know who the hell they are. We are still, if I can speak clearly, trying to figure out who the hell we are.
A little bit of a work in progress, but a talented work in progress for Florida State. That rally against Nebraska and Lincoln to win their part of the ACC Big Ten Challenge got my attention. Now, that was a good second half on the road, and to get that win, 75-64, showed maturity, and it showed, too, that they were kind of getting comfortable together again. There are a couple transfers, I should note here, that are in this rotation for Georgia Tech. So it's not just that they've all played together for 4 years, but they are an experienced group nonetheless. And so that, to me, that showed real leadership. Nebraska's not terrible. And so that was a big win for them. And I think Georgia Tech is weird. Lest we forget, and I'll remind everybody this, because I said something at the end of last year. Quietly, while Florida State was winning the conference all by their lonesome, solo first place in the ACC, Georgia Tech late in the year began to garner victories and move on up. And nobody noticed it because they got off to such a bad start last year, and I understand why nobody would notice it. Georgia Tech last year ended up, folks, finishing 17-14 overall. They were fifth in the ACC. They were above 500 in the ACC. They went 11-9 in a 20-game schedule. They were 4 games behind the second place cluster. They were right. Virginia, Louisville, and Duke were ahead of them, but so were we. But That's a pretty good run for Georgia Tech. Looked like they were getting the program together there.
Yeah, and again, this is just something where tonight you get to see a test of the maturity level of this group and whether or not they can stay within themselves and understand what Leonard's asking them to do. And you get to see, honestly, for us as fans, we're getting to see what is Leonard going to ask these guys to do. We don't know yet what the baseline rotation is going to look like, how they're going to react to different sets on the floor, different sizes of opponents. I do know that if you just look at a shot map, a couple of things that Georgia Tech does well, we do not defend well. So there are a couple of places on the court where Georgia Tech can go and take advantage. Question is, do we make those adjustments? I'm looking forward to the chess match.
Well, I want you to talk to me about Moses Wright, and I want you to talk to me about that team.
Sure.
I know you did the analytics for warchant.com for folks to go read, along with show contributor Chris Malagon. So, I'm interested to see what you found out about what they do. He is their best player, and he's a guy that leads them in every statistical category. And they really rely, I know they 7 to 8 man rotation, but they really rely on 5 guys to play a lot of minutes. And so, as usual, Florida State will have an advantage there in terms of overall depth. That's typical. We may not have the same depth we usually do here, but it's always more depth than everybody else seems to have. That'll be today's top story. We'll do it next when we come back to Tallahassee Game Day Court Report.
He's Jeff Cameron and Tom Lang.
Time for today's top story, brought to you by our friends at AAA Tree, experts in landscaping, a Tallahassee staple for over 35 years. Did you know AAA offers holiday lighting? AAA holiday lighting services include design, consultation, setup and takedown, maintenance, and lighting storage. That's a good thing. Call them today for all your outdoor holiday lighting needs. 850-385-3319. I'll tell you, too, it's not too late. I just had the guy across the street from our house to put up his lights yesterday. I had to shame him. I noted the date. Told him good job. Took you long enough.
So did we get a free pass in our house because we just moved?
I mean, you had this past weekend.
I know. First of all, it's quite hidden because we've got to get rid of some shrubbery in front of the house and all that stuff.
There, yeah.
I mean, the tree's up, the wreath is up. And
you could call our friends at AAA.
I could.
You could do that. Yeah,
I could do that.
Might very well work. Call them today, Tom. 850-385-3319. AAA Tree experts in landscaping and now holiday lighting. There you go. Worked it in there for you. Call them today, Tom.
Maybe I can get the T. Lang discount.
Yeah, get the T. Lang discount. Maybe they'll put up the lights while they trim the trees. Boom! One-stop shop. Forget about it. There you go. You got it done. I mentioned Moses Wright before the break. Jose Alvarado, Bubba Parham, Michael DeVoe, Jordan Usher, the primary starters for Georgia Tech. If you look at the minutes played, they eat up most of it. Moses Wright, the guy. Georgia Tech does some things you noted really well that Florida State doesn't do well. Talk to me about what you saw when you and Chris Malagon worked on your analytics for this week.
So Florida State defends a lot of places on the court really well. We know that. One of the places they don't defend well, the Noles, is the right corner, which is, you can see that almost if you play the games back in your mind. They rotate, they collapse, they protect the basket, and then there's a kick-out three opportunity, right? And so a lot of opponents are hitting those against Florida State early on first three games. That's where Georgia Tech goes to work, is the right side, the right corner, and the right wing. They're well above the country's average. They're shooting 44.4% in the right corner. They're shooting just over 45% on the right wing. Nowhere else do they hit their threes all that well. But a guy who can do that is Moses Wright. Moses Wright is a 6'9" senior forward, but he's not like Trace Jackson Davis. Jackson Davis was only at the rim. If you looked at his shot chart and the mapping of everywhere he took his field goal attempts from last year and this year, I mean, it's over 90% are right at the basket. Layups, little 4-footers, putbacks, those types of things. Moses Wright is more of a modern player. He can hit a corner three. He can hit a shot from the top of the key. He can stretch you out defensively. So this player is a little bit more versatile than the guy we saw last week who went off against us.
One of the problems, and I hate when we play teams like this because it's hard to impose your will. Florida State usually finds a way, but the Yellow Jackets are 237th out of 357 Division I teams in adjusted tempo, and that's despite Tom playing Nebraska, who plays at the 18th fastest tempo. It's also despite playing Georgia State. They're 35th in the country in adjusted tempo. Yeah. They also played Mercer, who's in the top 60 in adjusted tempo, and yet Georgia Tech still ensures that they're going to play a half-court, slow, methodical game if they have their liking.
So certainly most teams that face Florida State are going to want to do that anyway because you don't want the better athletes to get more possessions. But, yeah, I looked at the next three opponents, and this group is slow. UCF is slow. Gardner-Webb actually is the fastest of the three, but I doubt their game plan will call for max possessions against FSU. The thing about Moses Wright, too, is he's a highly efficient player. When you're looking at points per possession so far this season, he's in the top 10% of the country. He's had the ball for 69 possessions, nice, and it's among the top 10% of all players in the country in terms of efficiency. What they use him for the most part is in plays where they call for cuts, and also he's cutting to the basket after setting a screen. So they like to pick and roll with Moses, too.
Wonder how ugly this game will be. As we alluded to at the outset of the show, the court report, it is always seemingly an ugly, disjointed, convoluted affair when these two teams meet, a contrast in styles. I'm really interested as we kind of look back at Florida State's win over Florida. Weird game for a lot of reasons, one of them tragic. But you saw the emergence of Scottie Barnes yet again moving into this other realm, and how will he react tonight? As this season goes along, everything is exploratory for us as fans because we have a player in Scottie Barnes that is unlike any player, really maybe in Florida State history. The jump from game 1 to game 2 to game 3 is absolutely massive. I can't imagine that he gets that much more out over his skis than he was this past Saturday. But my goodness gracious, he played with confidence that does not belie his 18 years on this earth.
Well, and what's interesting is it's not like Florida ran a bunch of 6'5" guys out there. If you look at the first chalk outline on the first dunk, that's a really tall player that Scottie's dunking over. And looking at Georgia Tech's defensive map, they're a little bit better than the country average in terms of defending near the basket. The country average right now is 54.1%. That makes sense. It's a high percentage area. They're defending at 53.2%. Scottie started really slow in that area. He's 11 for 23 on the season at the rim, which is not good enough, especially for a guy who doesn't have a jump shot. But against Florida, he was 6 of 8. So is he starting to feel the speed of the game slow down a little bit?
Well, and if I were Georgia Tech, here would be my chief area of concern because we play a lot of guards at Georgia Tech, and because we play 3 guards primarily at Georgia Tech, I'm looking at them, and they are 6'5", 6 feet tall, and 6'2". That's going to be a problem.
That could be the green light special.
That could be the green light special indeed. That's tough to overcome, man. That's better duck if my man comes down the lane. I think most impressively, this was a person who was motivated partly because you noted it, Tom, even though there was a weird element to this game. And again, as I alluded to, a game interrupted by tragedy. There was some chippiness beforehand that I think carried over once the decision to continue playing played out. He was angry. Lewis and others had chirped to Barnes, and he was going to go about his business in an effort to ensure that they paid for that. I love the chip on the shoulder. Does it carry over tonight? Is this just who we are as a team? It looks like we have a lot of guys that are bringing what for on a nightly basis. MJ Walker looks like his disposition has shifted too. There's an attacking mentality and understanding. Let the game come to you, but at the same time, when you have your moments, take them. He's flushed. Think about Raekwon Gray baseline at the beginning of the year. That was nasty and explosive. Florida State strikes me as the kind of team that's going to get 4 or 5 of these in any given game from any number of players on the roster in a given night.
I think the key development for the beginning part of ACC play, too, is Balsa. What can Balsa be on offense?
Good point.
Every night, is he going to get hacked and there are no calls because he's just that much taller than everybody else? Here's an opportunity, again, for the Noles to go to work in the post. Against the country's average, Balsa is shooting right there, 0.1% better than the country average. You got to be better if you're 7 feet tall at the rim. That's where you need to make your mark. So I'll be interested to see if tonight is another opportunity for Balsa where he gets some minutes and some production, or if he gets in early foul trouble. It's just that is a player that could put Florida State's offense in the untouchable category because of the versatility we could bring. We're shooting the 3 well to start the season, but around the rim, not so much. Balsa can help change that.
Tallahassee Game Day Court Report is brought to you by Lisa's Paint and Body Shop, proud longtime supporters of the tournament train. Lisa's Paint and Body Shop reminds you that it's your choice to find a body shop that is working for you and looking out for you as well. Lisa's Paint and Body Shop, 2820 Mahan Drive, and online at lisaspaintandbody.com. More Tallahassee Game Day Court Report in a moment.
And Tom Lang.
Noles rank inside the top 25 in the country in both offensive and defensive efficiency. Obviously, if you look at Florida State, by the way, Ken Palm rates Florida State as the tallest team in the country by average height metric. Seems that's the case almost every year. It's really remarkable to be able to continue down that line in recruiting. And one of the things that allows you to do, and I love this stat, and it's been this way for 3 years, offensive rebounds. Florida State is really, really good at creating second chance opportunities. They do it better than most. That has been the case so far this year as well. And then I would also note that, through 3 games, you've got 3 different guys averaging in double figures. But MJ Walker leading the way at 18 points per game. I really like the step he has taken forward in yet another year here in Tallahassee. Obviously, the country will be fixated on Scottie Barnes. We are too. As he has been so good coming off the ACC Freshman of the Week title for him. I wonder how many times he'll win that this year. That was that 17-point performance against Florida. And I would also note this, that Moses Wright and Balsa will go to war here tonight. This will be fun. That's a good matchup to watch, and we'll see how Balsa handles that. Can he stay out of foul trouble? Defensively, we all know what Florida State does very well. They create turnovers. Their length and their busy hands make it very difficult on opposing teams. Over the last 2 games, Georgia Tech, though, has been much improved taking care of the basketball. They committed just 6 turnovers against Kentucky. They committed just 8 turnovers against Nebraska. And then if you look at Florida State, Noles have turned the ball over, forced opposing teams to turn the ball over 57 times in 3 games. There you go. Circle it. I think you got your matchups, and I think you have the outline you need here in what to look for. I would think that Georgia Tech's going to have to knock down threes tonight, Tom, because I don't think they're going to be able to operate successfully and consistently in the paint.
They're not afraid to shoot threes. Georgia Tech, one of the funny things just in looking in the map of where they shoot from, if you're looking at straight away, they're 6 for 36 in the season. They're not being they're not deterred by a lack of success from that part of the court. So they're not going to be afraid to jack up the threes. The question is, if you want to play slow and you want to shoot the 3 ball a bunch, that's a really disjointed looking game. And then where do the long rebounds go? That's the hard part. Is you cannot predict nearly as reliably where a 30-foot shot bounces off the rim and where it goes. Yeah. So, Balsa versus Wright is going to be a really good battle when it comes to post possessions and cuts and how they guard each other if they've got equal foul trouble on the court. But if one guy wins the rebounding battle over the other, I don't know how much of a story it's going to tell if Georgia Tech's game plan is to shoot the 3 ball a bunch. One thing I will say about the steals, too, if you look at the averages, and it's only 3 games, but it's absurd how many guys register high average steal counts. Raekwon's averaging a full 2 a game. And he feels like he might be in on more that they're not giving him credit for because his hands are so active in the passing lanes. Osborne's 1.7, Scottie 1.7, MJ Walker 1.0. And even if you're over 0.5 a game, you're doing some things. And 0.7 for the following 3 players, Polite, Wilkes, and Calhoun. So even in limited minutes for Sardar, that means his hands are active. Yeah, they really generate a lot of opportunities in transition.
If you want to have fun, just kind of watch the body language of opposing guards going against Florida State. It's really, really difficult. I don't care how talented, how veteran-laden a team is. I think you watch these games this year, you'll see that Florida State takes everybody out of their offense and everybody out of their comfort zone. They did it all of last year, and I think to some degree they'll be able to better do it again this year because that length is troublesome for lots of reasons. But I think in the case of Scottie Barnes against opposing guards, it's especially true. You just don't run into people that are 6'9" with that length and have the foot quickness to stay in front of point guards. You just don't see it. And so far through 3 games when I watch it, I see kids that look overwhelmed against Florida State.
So the funny thing was before his first dunk on Saturday, Scottie scored a beautiful explosive drive to the basket and finish with grace off the backboard. And that in and of itself would have been a highlight that I would have remembered if there weren't other ones behind it that were just that much better. But his explosiveness is coming to life here. And one other note in the post real quick. And Gome had a good second half against Florida.
Yes, he did.
That's somebody who's coming in as a grad transfer. This is not a 4-year project. This is somebody who was supposed to contribute right away, but because of visa restrictions moving from Canada down to the United States, he didn't get up to the speed that they wanted him to in strength and conditioning, development in the system, not hands-on training the way they normally would have it. But Ngom is supposed to give us good minutes now, and the first sign of life did happen in the second half on Saturday.
And for a guy that size, his hands, you noted it, are active, are quick. And so you watch. A lot of times that's just a height thing, but no, he's quick too. So there's a lot to be excited about. Every game that Florida State gets to play right now, we'll continue to knock on wood and not take for granted these opportunities to play the game while COVID rages. And I know we're all just holding on for dear life till we can get these vaccines disseminated in mass. And I think, the hope is that you're able to do this safely first and foremost. But with each passing game, when I'm solely looking at the growth and maturity and projection of what a team will become, I just think, man, Florida State has been unable, because of the way the schedule's set up and because they didn't get the exhibition games that they ordinarily get, really to explore the newer players. They really haven't had the luxury to do that. Now, they'll get a respite after this game. They'll get an opportunity, UCF, Gardner-Webb, to maybe play more minutes for all these guys, but there's real talent there. I don't think the depth will be anywhere close to what it's been in recent years. I say anywhere close. Florida State quite literally played 12 guys excessively. I don't know. I'm going to guess the rotation is somewhere in the neighborhood of 8-9 this year, and I think they'll depend on many more minutes from these frontline guys than they ordinarily do. I know they don't want to continue to play, all of these guys extended minutes, but early on with these matchups being so important, when you play Indiana, Florida, and Georgia Tech back to back to back, these are games that you want to win. These are important games to win. This is your conference opener. You don't get the luxury of exploring those Ngom, for example, those kinds of players. Calhoun, I think, is going to play a much bigger role with this basketball team. He's going to get more and more minutes. He's a guy that quite clearly, Tom, I think you can start to see it shaping up. He's going to be the off-the-bench guy, probably a more athletic version of P.J. Savoy, right? He's kind of that off-the-bench guy they want to bring in. To me, and I said this earlier today on Seminole Headlines, this is a heat check coming off the bench. That's what you do. The form is there. Let him take some shots. If he's on, keep him in the game. Let's go. If he's off, obviously you can regulate his minutes accordingly.
Yeah, I think, if you're looking for second-wave candidates, if you're going to start the game with Raekwon at forward, right, and then Balsa playing the 5, that means that Sardar and Osborne are really your next two that can impact the game in multiple ways, with Raekwon Evans giving you minutes, spelling Scottie at point guard. So that would be your wave of 7, and then from there you can mix and match with Wyatt Wilkes if he's feeling it on a given night, and Ngom can come in case you're in foul trouble. From there, it does get a little bit dicier. It's nice to see Nathaniel Jack hit a 3 again over the weekend, so maybe he's somebody who could spot up and give you an important 9 points in a game, something like that. But Raekwon Gray is somebody worth circling so far, because what he's done through 3 games is a lot of fun.
MVP of the team right now, really.
He leads
him
the team
and Jay
in
Walker.
Rebounds. He leads the team in rebounds, steals, and blocks. He doesn't turn the ball over a bunch. He needs to get better at the free throw line, limited opportunities so far. He's hit a 3. He's shown what you said earlier, the propensity to say, I'm going to give myself the green light and go get me a basket by putting it on the deck. That has been a real problem for him leading up to the season. If the basketball hits the court in his hands, we're not coming away with it. We're not even getting a shot off. So if he even gets a little bit better as we get into ACC play with being able to dribble the ball himself and drive, man, what he can do for us, the productivity in 24 minutes from Raekwon Gray is completely comprehensive. Across all facets of the game, he's been a big player for us.
And it shows, I think, when you just watch the games, even without those numbers, without those analytics, and those are important to just verify what you think you're seeing and to get an idea of who a player is and project that forward with certain matchups. So I'm with you on all of that. But I think just old school watching the game of basketball, he always feels like, to me, the guy that's doing the most amount of things during his time on the floor. He can score, he distributes, he rebounds, he steals, he plays good. He does everything that you want a guy to do, and he's lost a lot of weight, and it's good to watch.
That's 24 minutes a game he's playing. That's another headline, too, is he's being able to produce all this stuff in 24 minutes, and it looks like he can handle a few more minutes if he needs to, if the rotation is short or the matchup is tight. That's a headline in and of itself, given his conditioning in the past couple of years.
Yeah, by the way, real quick, if you're wondering, we didn't get into it. Georgia Tech defensively, and just so you know what Florida State will be facing tonight, we're highlighting players doing good things. What are they going to be facing? Well, Georgia Tech likes to kind of ship and shape, if you will. They're shapeshifters is another way of saying that, Jeff. They go man-to-man, and then go to zone, then they go back to man-to-man, then they go to zone, then go back to man-to-man. So, obviously, when you're facing that zone, you got to get the ball into the ACC logo, into the middle of the floor there, and try to attack that. I always feel like we've gotten so much better. I say the last 4 years, we've gotten so much better when that happens in-game, when teams switch to a defense that in the past we would have struggled against. We really don't struggle for prolonged periods against pressure, against zone, really any of it.
No, pressure caught us off guard on Saturday,
turnover,
and then the context of the game is what it is too, so that might play a bit of a factor, but we reacted to it. And if you look at our productivity so far against the press, it's really good.
It's really good.
Even as bad as that start was. It's a 70-30 split, man to zone for Georgia Tech. Now, that might change tonight given the talent for Florida State. The one area that Georgia Tech is really weak, the two wings and straightaway threes, they're getting burned, and they're getting shot out of the zone probably in those situations. So if Polite can continue to do what he does, MJ Walker obviously is a threat. Calhoun, I think Florida State's going to get some opportunities early in this game to hit some open looks from three in rhythm. If you do, then Georgia Tech might be forced to come out of whatever that lax zone might be.
Come back and wrap it up on Tallahassee Game Day Court Report. Give you our predictions for tonight's game. The Noles are undefeated, looking to keep the home win streak going. It is girthy. It is a sizable win streak at home, to say the least. More Tallahassee Game Day Court Report in a moment.
Tom Lang.
As we wrap it up on Tallahassee Game Day Court Report, just a reminder that our friends at the Guardian Ad Litem need your help. We are unable to conduct the bowling tournament that we have every year at this time, much to our chagrin and much to theirs as well. But we wanted to find a way to help out still. And boy, oh boy, I can tell you that I'm proud of the community once again. Proud of a lot of you that have already stopped by our offices here, ESPN Tallahassee Studios, and dropped off gift cards. Now there's another way that you can help out. We're going to, in the next several hours, be dropping off boxes where you can help by dropping off gift cards if you happen to be at one of these locations. Those locations are Budget Printing, that's 1366 Bluntstown Street. Games for Less, my buddy George, who just re-upped with us again today. Shout out to George. Another year on the air with ESPN Radio.
Right.
3539 Appalachie Parkway. Our dear friends at Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachie Parkway. Bump is local. Good old Eddie is back on board with us again this year. He at Gordo's, and as my phone goes off to let me know there's a Florida State basketball game tonight. Sorry about that. But they, too, renewed today. So good timing to mention them. Dear friends and supporters of ESPN Radio. Bump is local, 349. That's 2738 Capitol Circle Northeast. Gordo's North Side, 1460 Market Street. And Clarn Country Club, doing a great job. And the renovations there, the course is in great shape. John has done fantastic work, and they've joined us this year as well. That's 100 Tyrone Circle.
So a couple of notes. Number one, for Gordo's North Side, if you have any last-minute catering plans, maybe families coming into town late in the holidays, everything's on short notice these days, and you need some food for up to Christmas Eve.
Yeah, up to Christmas
Gordo's
Eve is right.
has you covered. They're the best in the business when it comes to catering. That's why they have the big vans. You see them on the road. That's what they're doing all the damn time, is catering delicious food just for you. And then at Klarn, John Martin up there at Klarn has decided to really help out and step up. Starting tomorrow, once they have the box in place in the pro shop, if you donate $50 in gift cards, first 10 people to donate minimum $50 in gift cards will get a free round of golf at Klarn as a thank you for your support of the Guardian Ad Litem. So thanks to Klarn for that.
Yeah, it's huge. Can't wait. I'm going to be dropping off the box over there to them this evening, I should say, and I look forward to it. Good times. I would also note that we've got some game predictions to do, but I also wanted to mention our friends at Barano Heating and Air Conditioning for who's hot and who's cold. Barano, longtime trusted partner of ESPN Radio. Turn to the experts at Barano Heating and Air Conditioning for all your heating and cooling needs. You can visit them at baranoac.com. Give them a call today, 580-4029, primarily not only because they're the best in the business, they got carrier units for you. You save a lot of money, and it's incentivized. You can find out how. 580-4029. Give them a call today. Who's hot, who's cold? I'm going to do this real quick. I know we already did some of that, but Anthony Polite, man. Mm-hmm. That's my guy right there all of a sudden. Listen, he was always a good defender. He was awkward. I was never really sure that his offense was going to come around. Ham does such a good job of kind of fostering these kids and their growth over their time here. He doesn't get too burdened by disappointment. What I mean is, if they come out early on in their careers at Florida State and don't play well, and let's say they're outright disastrous, they appear to be overwhelmed, and at times he did look overwhelmed. And we've had players like that. And you think, the fan base, you'll hear the fan base, and I'm right there with you, by the way. You'll hear folks say, this guy, why do we continue to play him? Why do we put him out there? He's a turnover waiting to happen. He's a brick waiting to be shot. He is all these things that bother fans. We get mad in the big moments. But if Ham recruited you, and if Ham evaluated you, he and his staff, and they offered you a scholarship, and they have you on the roster, and they're putting you in the game, it's because they know good things are to come from you. They believe you're going to contribute in somehow, some way, and they do not give up on you early. They'll find a role. Some roles bigger than others, but they're going to find a role for you where you can be at your best and help this team. And for Polite, it was always about on-the-ball defense. It was always about harassing opposing guards. But, boy, has he really developed into a nice offensive player to go with. He's a smart, heady player. He can really shoot it when he gets into a rhythm. I got to give Polite all the credit. He's my who's hot right now.
Well, here's one thing about him, too. He's averaging 5.3 rebounds a game. Mm-hmm. That's tied for second best on the team with Balsa.
It's impressive, man.
Shooting 50% from three this year. The left corner is his hot spot so far in the season. He's 3 of 4 from the left corner, 3 points attempted, or 6 made in 12 attempts. The other thing about him, too, and the thing that would frustrate us is the turnovers. Well, he's played over 80 minutes and only 2 turnovers so far this year.
He's really become a nice player. Cold right now, I wouldn't really say anybody, it's too early, the sample size is too small, but if you needed to, I would go with Calhoun. I think he's going to contribute way more than he has. Not that I'm down on him for any reason. He's just not garnering the minutes that we expected just now. Just 7 minutes, I believe, in the last game.
Yeah, I'd say Cold would be Scottie Barnes from the free throw line. You're up to 13 attempts. He's only made 4, and it doesn't look exactly natural. Now, Scottie can summon the ability to make a shot and have the will, like he did in overtime against Indiana, to tie the game. But if you're going to start the season and you get to around 20, 25 attempts and you're still around that 30, 40% mark, guess what's going to happen?
Yeah, you're going to get fouled at the end of games.
And when you're in the single bonus as well.
Yeah.
If a team is trailing and, they're going to draw their 7th, 8th, or 9th foul, it's a good idea to put Scottie up there for the 1-and-1.
Today's game predictions brought to you by Lane's Medical Shop with locations in Colquitt and Donaldsonville. Lane's Medical Shop offers all your medical supply needs. We'll even deliver to you with emergency service available. Lane's Medical Shop, 229-308-5811. That's 229-308-5811. All right, well, I'll just say this about Florida State. They don't lose at home, and I'm not about to predict them to lose at home. At some point, the streak will end, but I'm not going to be the guy that sits here and says it's tonight to Georgia Tech. That is something remarkable when you consider 26 straight wins at home and counting. Obviously, if you control the paint and you make Georgia Tech one-dimensional here, they get a lot easier to defend. I think Florida State will do that tonight, but I do think it's going to be an ugly game. The one caveat to this prediction of Florida State winning the game somewhere in the neighborhood of, say, 78-66, something like that, the one caveat that I'll throw out there is I don't know where their head is at. I mean, listen, they certainly flipped the switch when it was go time again after the medical emergency with Keontae Johnson. But these things have a tendency or a way of affecting you after the fact sometimes when you're removed from it and you have had time to think about what you witnessed. And certainly anybody in the building, let alone those players that were on the court for that or standing on the side of the court, I can't imagine that kicking around in your brain and not having an effect on you. We'll see. Where are they at mentally? I don't want to assume anything, whether they're going to be locked in or they're not, but I do wonder about that because – obviously, that was very, very sad, very, very scary, and I don't know if it'll affect these young men or not.
So as of early this morning, Las Vegas says Florida State -8. Do you think that's a little rich?
No, I understand why Vegas would do that. The home win streak, the undefeated season underway, Scottie Barnes' emergence for the nation to see as he's thundering on folks. I think they probably feel pretty good about Florida State. And what did I just say, 78-66 or something like that? Yeah, I'll take the Noles minus the 8.
They're saying it's a little bit lower scoring, but in that ballpark and the spread being 8. Yeah, the one thing about the way they finished that game, they finished. Like they really did. And that's every year you wonder if you have that. And the one thing about Scottie Barnes, too, is I mean, he knows how good he is. He knows he's about to make millions upon millions of dollars at the next level.
It's not about that right now for him, right?
But even in the course of, a game that's in that intermediate level between AAU ball and where you want to go, you still have to reach back and find it, and he did on Saturday.
Quickly.
Yeah, and what that changes about this offense, if he gets to the basket with regularity, and he should he should get first 2 or 3 dribbles towards the basket against a guard lineup that's this small, that opens up everything for this offense. So I feel like there might be a bit of an offensive output tonight that we get really happy about. So I'll take the Noles 80-64.
All right, well, we're in the same ballpark then. We both have Florida State winning the game. I will say this. I think it's close into the second half. I think it's too early in the season to expect runaways. I think that Georgia Tech will do enough things well. They're feeling good about themselves after their last 2 games. So
they can take the air out of the ball.
Yeah, I think they will try to slow it down like you said. And if they're successful at all of a sudden you get into one of those classic Florida State-Georgia Tech matchups that we're always bemoaning, but lately we always win. So good work out of you, Tom. Thanks to Matthew as well. And all of you, by the way, coming up next, if you're catching the first version of this, is Seminole Headlines. If you catch the later version, then have a great evening and enjoy the basketball game, everybody. Take care. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Be well. Go Noles.